What's a single sentence that completely derailed your future plans? I never thought a 3-year-old asking, "Are mommy and daddy coming back from heaven today?" would completely destroy my plans to become a doctor. My roommate Penelope got the call that her brother and sister-in-law had been killed in a head-on collision with an intoxicated driver. She was gasping between words and wiping her nose on her sleeve when she told me she had to take custody of their 3-year-old son Tommy. I still remember the sound she made when she hung up the phone. It wasn't crying, it was this broken animal noise that made my stomach drop. Penelope was this super focused chemistry major who color-coded her notes and had never missed a class in her life. Tommy was this tiny kid with huge brown eyes who clutched a stuffed dinosaur everywhere he went. The first week he stayed with us, he barely said a word and would just sit in the corner of our dorm room staring at nothing. The university said Tommy couldn't stay in the dorms, so Penelope had to find an apartment off campus within 2 weeks. She was scrambling to figure out daycare while trying to keep up with organic chemistry. I started helping out by watching Tommy when she had exams. Tommy would wake up drenched in sweat calling for his mom every night. Penelope would have to hold him for hours until he calmed down. She would fall asleep standing up while brushing her teeth, and she got her first C+ circled in red ink. The worst part was watching this tiny kid try to process something that would break most adults. When she asked me to watch him during her afternoon labs, I said yes without thinking about it. At first, it was just skipping my elective psychology class once a week. Tommy would grab door frames and dig his fingernails into the wood whenever Penelope left. He would hyperventilate and throw up and bang his head against the wall. One morning when Penelope was getting ready for her organic chemistry exam, Tommy grabbed her leg and started crying. He looked up at her with tears streaming down his face and said, "Please don't go to heaven too, Penny. I'll be good, I promise." Penelope broke down sobbing right there in the hallway, and I grabbed my backpack and started clearing my schedule. I started missing more classes because Tommy would hide under tables and scream "no school" whenever we mentioned daycare. The social worker said he had severe separation anxiety from the trauma and needed consistent caregivers. Penelope was eating cereal for dinner and wearing the same shirt 3 days straight, so I made the decision to skip my morning biochemistry lectures to help with Tommy. The kid was smart, but he would flinch whenever someone raised their voice even a little bit. He wouldn't eat unless someone sat right next to him the whole time. Getting him to sleep required this whole routine of checking under the bed and in the closet and leaving 3 nightlights on. I found myself Googling how to help traumatized children at 2 a.m. By winter semester, I was missing entire days of classes. My advisor called me in for a meeting and warned me that I was going to fail if I didn't get my attendance up. The problem was that Tommy would have complete meltdowns with anyone else. We tried hiring a babysitter and he screamed for 4 straight hours until she left. I was supposed to take the MCAT in spring, but my MCAT prep books were still wrapped in plastic. Every free moment was spent playing blocks with Tommy or taking him to therapy appointments. Penelope would stare at my textbooks and chew her bottom lip until it bled, but she was barely hanging on herself. She had already switched her major from chemistry to early childhood education. Watching her dreams die alongside mine was almost worse than losing my own. The breaking point came in March when I had to choose between taking my final exams and staying with Tommy during his first overnight hospital stay. He had pneumonia, and the doctor said he needed someone familiar with him at all times because his anxiety was making his breathing worse. I sat in that uncomfortable plastic chair next to his bed for 3 straight days, watching his oxygen levels and holding his small hand when he cried for his parents. When he finally started breathing normally again and looked up at me with those big brown eyes and whispered, "Thank you, I knew there was no going back to my old life," I ended up failing 3 classes that semester, which knocked me out of the pre-med program. My parents were furious and said I was throwing my life away for someone else's kid. My dad refused to speak to me for 2 months, but when I looked at Tommy sleeping in that hospital bed holding my hand, I knew I had made the right choice. Penelope graduated a year late, but she got a job at a preschool, and Tommy started talking more. The next fall, I switched my major to child psychology. I had learned more about trauma and child development in those 8 months with Tommy than I ever would have in a textbook.